News 13 and 11 starts now.
We don't know the motive of the killer. We don't know whether the killer set out to target police officers or whether he gunned them down as they responded to a call. Regardless of motive, the death of these three brave officers underscores the danger that police across the country confront every single day. And we as a nation have to be loud and clear that nothing justifies violence against law enforcement. Attacks on police are an attack on all of us.
Words from the president addressing the nation today after 3 police officers were killed this morning in Baton Rouge. We'll have the latest on that, including the identities of the 3 officers. But first, we begin with new news at 11 o'clock. One person is dead after a crash off Fantasy Harbor Boulevard. It happened around 6 o'clock tonight. Troopers say it happened at the intersection near April Gray Lane. The coroner has not identified the victim. We are working to learn more about what happened in that crash. Deputies are investigating a double homicide after a 9-year-old and the child's grandmother were found dead in Darlington County this morning. Sheriff Wayne Bird says the call came shortly before noon. Bird said someone found the 2 bodies at a home off of a highway 151 near the Darlington Dragway. SLED agents along with the Darlington County Sheriff's Office were called to assist. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. The Horry County coroner says a 6-week-old baby drowned in a pond near Tanger Outlets last night. The coroner says crews recovered King Khalil Jair Alexander from the Tanger Outlet Pond off Highway 501. Alexander is from the Chapel Hill area in North Carolina. Horry County Police now investigate to determine exactly what happened. We'll bring you updates as soon as they become available to us. Back to Louisiana tonight, we're learning more about the 3 officers killed this morning in Baton Rouge. Authorities have identified those men: 41-year-old Officer Matthew Gerald, 32-year-old Montrell Jackson were both from the Baton Rouge Police Department. 45-year-old Deputy Brad Garfola was with the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. Police have also identified the man who killed those 3 officers and injured 3 others who remain in the hospital. Don Champion has the latest from Louisiana.
Investigators say Gavin Long, a decorated ex-Marine, acted alone when he exchanged gunfire with police officers at a gas station in Baton Rouge Sunday. The officers were responding to reports of a suspicious person dressed in all black with a gun. An eyewitness live streamed the rampage on social media.
Nice little sniper rifle. He is military.
CBS News has learned that Long rented a white Chevy vehicle last week and drove to Baton Rouge. The 5-year veteran also posted on social media under the pseudonym Cosmo Setapinra.
You gotta fight back. That's the only way a bully knows to quit.
In one of his final acts, Long tweeted, quote, "Just because you shed your physical body doesn't mean that you're dead." Investigators had a more than 1-mile-long area shut down while they went over the crime scene for evidence. 3 officers were killed, including Montrell Jackson, who had been with the Baton Rouge Police Department for 10 years.
We'll get through this as a family. We'll get through this as a community.
Officers eventually killed the gunman. Baton Rouge has been a city on edge since 2 police officers shot and killed Alton Sterling nearly 2 weeks ago. Local leaders are calling for calm again.
We need to sit down at the table and have realistic conversation about race relations in this city.
Kansas City police shut down a road outside of Long's home as investigators searched for a motive behind his attack. Don Champion, CBS News, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Marine officials say Long received an honorable discharge back in 2010. In his address earlier, President Obama condemned the attack on police officers. Florence County deputies are investigating after a woman was shot at a nightclub early this morning. Major Mike Nunn says the shooting happened at a nightclub on C.W. Robinson Road in Florence County. Nunn says the woman was taken to an area hospital for her injuries. No word on her condition or what led to this shooting, but we'll keep you updated as we learn more. Myrtle Beach police are also investigating a shooting that sent 1 person to the hospital. This happened late last night. Lieutenant Doug Furlong says officers were called to Green Boulevard where someone was shot in the stomach. The person was on the way to the hospital when police arrived. There is no word on their condition at this time. A newly formed public safety committee says it wants to figure out why 4 people were killed in Horry County last week. The Sun News reports the group will now look at area crime statistics and demographics to understand. Now, last Monday, 2 men were found shot to death at the Socastee Plaza off 707. That same day, police say a Conway man was beat to death with a baseball bat in a home off Highway 501. And just a couple days before that weekend, police say Amanda Fisher of Brunswick County was shot to death. Her body was left at a K&W parking lot in North Myrtle Beach. Horry County reports 14 homicides this year. That's down from 16 in the same period last year. Strong storms brought high winds and heavy rains to parts of our area last night that damaged buildings and homes in the city of Johnsonville. News 13's Jamarlo Phillips spoke with people in the community that were hit the hardest.
Strong storms rolled through Johnsonville around midnight Saturday, causing extensive damage.
It sounded like a roaring sound. I was scared a lot.
Jennifer Lowerly and her family had just come home from the beach Saturday night before the Johnsonville area went under a severe thunderstorm warning.
About 20 minutes after being here, all of a sudden it sounded like a freight train had ended up in the middle of the house.
Lowerly says she was trying to unplug all the electronics in her house when the storm hit her home.
Pillars moved, lights thrown off, garage door messed up. The whole house shook. There's several cracked ceilings inside the house.
And on the outside, it's the same story.
3 vehicles, my husband's Harris pest control van, my work car, and my husband's truck.
There was some damage visible right after the storm happened in the early morning hours of Sunday morning, but in the daylight, people are realizing just how serious this storm was. A storm that came through the city of Johnsonville Saturday night damaged parts of Johnsonville Middle School. As you can see here behind me, the storm ripped trees down to the roots and even ripped part of the school's roof.
Parts of the roof had been pulled up, some of the insulation. We had some trees down. Walked to the back of the building. Beside our cafeteria, we had a canopy that the kids could eat outside. That canopy had been ripped up and actually taken across the school to the house and the yard on the other side.
Now friends, family, and neighbors are helping put back the pieces.
I'm just very thankful that we're alive and well, and you know, I just thank the Lord that He kept us safe.
The Lord has blessed us. This did not happen during school. You know, we were out for the summer. It happened at night, so nobody was in the building, and we're very blessed in that nobody got hurt. Things can be replaced. People cannot.
Reporting in Johnsonville, Jamarlo Phillips, News 13.
And a very different picture now compared to what was happening at this point a day ago when we did have those severe storms. Now just a little bit of cloud cover pushing off the coast. Everybody else fairly clear at the moment. A little bit of a wind from the south and enough moisture to prevent us really from dropping much more from where we are now. Temperature-wise, we're 77 in Bennettsville, 76 in Florence, and 77 for North Myrtle Beach. And temperatures will not drop much more than a couple of degrees overnight. We'll be starting out tomorrow morning at 80 degrees at the beaches at 8 a.m. and 77 inland. It will be a hot and muggy day. Not so much, though, with chances for thunderstorms, but those will return for most of the work week. You'll get the details coming up. Janae?
A group of people in Surfside Beach came together today to help their friend with cancer check an item off his bucket list. News 13's Abby O'Brien joins us now to show what today meant to him.
Today, I met Chris Sager. He's a husband and a father, but is also suffering from a terminal illness. And today, his friends and family surprised him with something that's been on his bucket list for a while. To some people, a car is just a way to get around.
We all have one thing in common, our cars.
But for Chris Sager, one particular type of car brings back a lot of memories.
When she was 17, 18, she bought one. We put a lot of miles, we traveled the country in one.
And then as life goes, Chris and Mona Sager had children, so he had to give it up. But his love for cars never went away.
Chris is a tried and true car guy. Unfortunately, Chris doesn't have enough time in his life to do all the things that he wanted to do.
Sager has cancer and told his friend Peter Studwell about the things he wanted to do in his time left.
He wanted to go to a Grand National meet.
Because Sager couldn't get to one, Studwell planned his own car show in the Rapid Transit parking lot to surprise his friend.
To give him a day where he'd have this to think of, you know what I mean, rather than what he's got going on in his life right now.
With not only 1 or 2 Grand Nationals, but 4 and several other vintage cars.
It really means a lot to celebrate now life while he's with us instead of afterwards.
Yeah, this is a celebration of life.
Also a celebration of a car that means so much to Sager, a car he was able to buy again.
And I'm just going to keep this one and pass it down to my children. something to remember me by.
But there's more he wants his kids and those he will leave behind to remember.
Just knowing that I was a good guy and I tried to do what I could for other people when I was able to, and hopefully other people will do the same for other people.
Definitely a story that touched my heart. Peter Studwell, who plans the event, says friends started calling friends, and soon they had people bringing vintage cars from over an hour and a half away, all to do whatever they could to put a smile on Chris Sager's face. Reporting for News 13, I'm Abby O'Brien.
And one group in the upstate says it wants to fight the growing hunger problem. Hub City Empty Bowls is gearing up for their annual fundraiser, but first they need help making one of the key pieces. Now, yesterday they kicked off the first of 3 bowl making events in Spartanburg. The clay bowls are sold at the annual Soup Day in the fall. Event organizers say it's a hands-on way to get the community involved with an issue that affects so many people.
That it's not somewhere else. It's not in a foreign country. It's not in the lower part of the state. It's right here in Spartanburg County. And this is all of Spartanburg County that we're talking about receiving the funds from the Empty Bowl Soup event. So all you have to do is walk out on the street. You'll see people going to the soup kitchen. Every day people lining up because they're hungry.
The next bowl making event will be this Thursday. Last year the group raised $25,000 to help fight hunger in Spartanburg. DX says they have now reported 18 cases of the Zika virus. Someone who lives in York County recently traveled to a country where the Zika virus is active. That's what marked this 18th case. Now, an agency spokesperson says the state isn't revealing where the virus was contracted. All 18 cases reported in South Carolina this year, though, were from people who traveled to countries where the virus is active. 19 cases of Zika have been reported in North Carolina, but no cases in North Carolina or South Carolina were contracted from a mosquito. Coming up after the break, the GOP convention begins tomorrow in Cleveland. A look at security measures and why some people are concerned about protesters next.